Hi, under 13 managers. I've put this video together. It goes for maybe 10 or 11 minutes. Hopefully, it gives you a bit of an idea for tomorrow. Sorry, I'm a bit crook, so if I'm a bit hard to understand, please excuse the voice. I've put this video together to try and explain some of the things you're required to do as a team manager and the information you're required to collect and what you're expected to do with it. Obviously, this is the first time a lot of you are doing it, so just give it your best shot. Mistakes might be made, but we'll try and fix them as we go. So there was a meeting held by AFL Barwon, so I'm going to attach, get that to you guys. But this is a section from it, and basically establishes all the stuff you've got to have on the day and get completed, and then submit to AFL Barwon. So your responsibilities vary depending upon whether you're playing at home or away. So when you're at home, you've got to do a lot more because you've got to collect all this information, get it in the envelope, and then get it back to AFL Barwon, which we'll talk about soon. Now in your pack, you will have got a number of envelopes. This is the envelope you've got to put all this information in and get it back to AFL Barwon, and you need to complete the front of the envelope, which is just basically information about the game. So I just want to talk you through each of these forms and what they look like and what needs to be done with them. So the first one is the team sheets. They need to be printed off Sports TG. For the first week, I'm going to give you a copy of them, but normally you just go to that team sheet and print it off once you've populated your team in Sports TG. So if we look at that, the form will look like this once it's been printed up. Okay, as you can see, I've crossed out the names, but the names will be listed here. You have the jumper numbers. So if you've got a missing jumper number, just fill it in manually, which in some cases you might be filling them all in manually week one if you haven't got a list of the numbers properly. If any extra players come in, fill them in manually here. And then obviously also your coaches will come up here, your team managers, the umpire, you've populated all that in Sports TG. At the end of it, you need to get the team manager to sign it and the umpire to sign it. So the list says that there's two of those. So obviously the two are one from you and one from the opposition team. So if you're the home team, you're going to collect it from the opposition team at the end of the game and put it in the envelope. So make sure they've both been signed. So this is the interchange card. Fill in all the information up the top here, the round, the age group, and so on. If you're not sure what division, check with the coach. Then at the start of the quarter and the start of each quarter, you fill in who's on the bench. Again, it's not names. You've got to put the numbers in here of the players. So it's got to be for both the home and away team. So the interchange steward is going to come from the home team. So during the game then, you've got to write any changes during the actual play time. So you've got to write the time of change, the number off, the number on, and as to whether it's interchange, yellow card, red card, or blood rule. So the interchange person needs to be sitting with the timekeeper to be able to put in what time it is in the quarter. So you're going to put quarter, 1, 12-minute mark, player off, 6, player on, 12, and so on. Don't forget at the end to make sure the interchange steward prints their name and signs it. The umpire's match report needs to be filled in and collected at the end of the game. Again, you just need to get the umpires to report on any delays. Hopefully there's none. Information on any yellow or red cards issued. Again, hopefully there's none. Just the players' names, the club, and so on. Were team players and club officials correctly attired? Hopefully again yes, but if no, some details. Were there any issues with the ground facilities or match day environment or any other incidents of concern to the umpires? So again, the umpire is going to fill that in. If they feel it is, then this part will be filled in each week. It's just the name of the umpire, whether field, boundary or goal, their signature, and club if they're not an official GFL umpire. So that needs to be filled in and then signed by the manager of the home team and the away team. Now this is a scorecard that you're going to give to the goal umpire. So you're going to give one to your goal umpire. The opposition team will have a goal umpire. They'll give theirs to them. But it's your responsibility if you're the home team to make sure you collect both at the end. So again, this is pretty self-explanatory. Again, you've got to put the game details in there, the division, the age group, the date, and then the goal umpire fills this in for each quarter, and you collect it at the end with the totals completed as well. So you've got to collect 2 of these at the end of the game. You need to make sure that both goal umpires have signed the card. So at the end, when there's a meeting between both goal umpires and the managers just to check the scores, that's when you get both of them to sign each of the cards. You also notice that there's timekeepers required to sign here. That's because the timekeeper card's on the back of this, which is what I'll show you next. One of the central umpires needs to sign this as well. So this is what the other side of the card looks like. Hopefully it's rarely filled in, so just home team, away team. So if the player gets a yellow or red card, just put their number in there, the time that it occurred when they were sent off, and then the time that the player resumes. It's just a way of monitoring that they're off for the right amount of time. So this is going to be filled in by the timekeepers, so who are going to be sitting with the interchange steward. So it's their role to fill that in. And then once it's done, at the end of the game, they need to sign the front of the card, which we spoke about before, where it asks both timekeepers to sign it. So there's going to be a timekeeper from both the away team and the home team. So if we have a look at the yellow cards and red cards, this is in this other table. So basically with the red card, the player has to go off for the rest of the game. They can eventually be replaced by someone else, but not for 20 minutes. Yellow card, the player can eventually come back on, but not for 15 minutes. And in that 15-minute period, no other player can come back on either. So just also a reminder, the coaches and the timekeepers might ask you this, but we're under 13, so the matches will be 4 times 15-minute quarters with breaks of 3 minutes, 10 minutes, and 5 minutes. So the timekeeper just keeps the clock running. The only time they're supposed to stop the clock is if a stretch has to come on the field. And on that point, it's important that we do have access to a stretcher, so you need to make sure you have got the stretcher ready and you know where it is. Each team should have been provided with a first aid kit. It's probably worth the managers keeping hold of this and not giving it to the coaches, and then it's the manager's responsibility to bring it each week as well. You need to make sure also there's a first aider available for your team. So you just need to make sure that there's a parent that's going to be there each week that holds a first aid qualification. Well, the club's also got an ice fridge or ice freezer behind the stand. So if you need ice when we're playing at home, if a player's got an injury, just let me know and I can show you how to access that ice. So if we go back over what you will have collected by the end of the game that we've covered so far, you've got the 2 team sheets that is printed off Sports TG. You've got 1 interchange sheet that you're going to collect, the umpire's match report, the goal umpire card and the timekeeper cards. Remember, you've got to get 2 of each of those from each of the clubs, and they're back to front on the cards you've been provided. With this one down here, best and fairest envelope and vote card, this is the official one for the league. I'll speak about our internal voting later, but as you can see, excluding under 13, so we don't need to do this. So that's obviously something new because we did have to do it last year, but you don't have to worry about that section. And if in the rare case that someone's reported, we need to get a report card filled in, but I will need to check with Gav about where to get that. So once you've collected all that information, you need to make sure you put in the envelope. So again, this is the home team. Put in the envelope and get it back to AFL Barwon by 12 o'clock on the following Monday, so the day after the game. And it needs to go to the AFL Barwon offices. So that's where the Falcons are. AFL Barwon's in the same spot. So if you go around the back of the building, there's some ramp and steps that lead up to a glass door if you're dropping it in late on Sunday, and there's like a letterbox hole or something where you just push it through into a box. So You need to make sure you get that there by before 12 o'clock on Monday. The other important part is making sure you update the results in Sports TG, which we spoke about in the previous video, but this needs to be in before 6 p.m. on the day of the match. So when you get home, as the home team, you need to put the results in for both the home and away team, which you're going to have all the sheets related to that. It's important to know that at some stage following that, I don't know whether it's the next day or the day after, it actually becomes locked. So if you haven't got the results in, it becomes a bit of a pain because you've actually got to contact them to have them manually put in. And it's frustrating for the boys because they look on the website and they see that their points, whether it be a win or a loss, hasn't been put in. So make sure you get that done. So this is just an internal one for our internal voting. So I've given you a heap of these sheets, so just cut them up before the game. You need 3 of them each game. So speak to the coach, see who he wants to have fill in the votes. Might be himself, another coach and a parent, or it might be himself and 2 parents. But either way, we want 3 filled in each week. Collect all 3, put them in an envelope and write the round on the front of the envelope. And then just keep all the envelopes in a safe spot at home, because at the end of the season, the coach is going to ask you for the envelopes, and we need you to give him 16 envelopes. It's got all the votes from the 3 people giving the votes in it, so that we can do the vote count at the end of the year. So during the game, you just need to manage what's going on. So some of the things you'll need to do is just make sure everyone's wearing the right gear. So the coach or the coaches have got their coaching shirts on. The runners got their running shirt on. If you the club's providing an umpire, which they will in most cases, there's an umpire. The umpire's got their shirt on. And if you got the water boys, that they have got their shirts on. In most cases, in under 13s, you often don't have the water boys, especially when the weather's cooler, because quarters are only going for 15 minutes. Normally the boys top up with water at the end of the quarter. So make sure everyone's wearing the right shirts. Just keep an eye on the coaches during the game, because they will tend to go into the zone. And I know a couple of times last year the manager had to remind us that we were standing too far forward and our feet were actually over the boundary line. So just those sort of things. And again, if the coaches are getting too loud, especially in regards to umpires, remind them that maybe they're getting a bit loud. And also the boys that are off the field, make sure that they are sitting in the right spot on the bench, that they're not just all sprawled across just behind the boundary line sitting on the grass. So yeah, there's some of the key things you need to watch for, as well as making sure that the boys, when they come on and off the ground, they actually go through the interchange lines. So that's about it. I think we've covered enough information. There may be other things that come up, but we can cover that during the week. If you've got any questions, just make sure you give me a call.